you, Seb. Right. So this is the second of our series of online panel discussions. This time again we have a group of young adults who will share their stories of courage and determination. I was a good athlete at school, winning 100, 200 and the long jump regularly. I had the speed and the strength to be a sprinter, but never the stamina and the endurance to be a long distance runner. So when I started jogging to keep myself healthy a few years back, I could not complete the Sinek jogging track, if you know what I mean. I had to stop a couple of times on the way before completing the 4.6 kilometer track. Even though I was in better physical shape than most of my colleagues, I used to take at best maybe 40 minutes to cover the distance. And I wanted to challenge myself after hearing that one of my friends, who is a national level motor car racer, was doing 5 kilometers in 30 minutes. That is about 10 kilometers an hour. So in July 2018, for the first time, I broke the 8 kilometers per hour barrier. And not willing to stop there, hold myself back, I kept pushing myself further and broke the 9 kilometers per barrier speed in August. And I know that if I push myself further, I can do even better. Yes, the practice helped me to improve my performance, but most of it was inside my mind. It was there inside me. I could do it right from the beginning. But I conveniently labeled myself as a sprinter and made myself believe that I could not run long distances. It was all up in here. The idea of this panel discussion was conceived when I came across this story I just shared with you in one of the articles I had written. I knew that there are many more similar stories of breaking boundaries, striving for excellence, and doing the impossible. So today, I'm delighted to have these three young achievers who have faced different challenges in their lives and overcame them with courage and dedication. Let me ask you a simple question. So Zoom Master, can we have the first poll? No, the first one, first question, whether they are the question whether they are, yes. So there's a question on the screen. Just take a few seconds to think about it and answer yes or no. Right, I think we have got about 40 responses. Right. I have 31% saying yes and 69% saying no. What are the question? Are you being the best you can be in life? Let me repeat. Are you being the best you can be in life? The fact that more than 2/3 of you saying no is good enough evidence for me that all of us believe that there's scope for improvement. Because being the best is not being better than someone else. There is no point in comparing and competing with someone else and winning. Because there's always going to be someone else who is better than you. So the competition will continue. To be the best you can be, you need to compete with yourself. If you become the best version of yourself, then there's not going to be any competition left. Right, another quiz. Right. So you have an athlete here, lady athlete. So the quiz is to identify who this is. I'll give you 4 options, right? The poll is open now. So you can identify who this athlete is. Right, we can close the poll now. Okay. Yes, this is Wilma Rudolph. Now, Wilma Rudolph was considered the fastest woman on the planet during the 1960s. She won 3 gold medals, the 100 and the 200-meter individual events, and the 4 into 100-meter relay at the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome, Italy. Even though these were outstanding achievements in their own rights, we have to look at her childhood to realize the true greatness of her feat. She was born prematurely as the 20th of 22 siblings from her father's 2 marriages. She suffered from a series of childhood diseases and at the age of 4 contracted polio. You know what polio is? That which makes your limbs weak. Even though she recovered from the disease, she lost strength in her left leg and foot. She wore a leg brace and could not walk properly until she was 12 years old. After coming out of the leg brace, she explored the depth and breadth of all the newfound freedom. This led her to try out many sports, which culminated in becoming the fastest woman on the planet. With that in mind, let me introduce the first speaker of the day, Nimna Vithanadi. A student of Brisbane International School, Nimna is a believer of being your best without competing with others. Initially having an ambition to become a doctor, growing up, she realized that public speaking and communication was her main element, which she is pursuing now at NSBA. Being an epitome of hard work and dedication, she transformed herself from this 70-kilo chubby child into a slim and beautiful young lady today. Over to you, Nimna.
Thank you, moderator. Have you come across situations where you felt as if you've been tied down to some unbreakable iron shackles? And that too, shackles that have drained you of the energy and willpower to fight? These shackles, known as barriers, are the impediments to self-growth, personal development, and the mental health of your brain. We, as people, cannot deny the fact as to how paralyzed our inner body feels when we want to do something, but there is something that is holding us back from doing it. Now, let me shift back to the first question I asked. Have you ever felt as if you want to run the marathon of life, but there is something that's holding you back? I have. And this very disastrous phase of my life began in the year 2016, where the most common thing I ever got to hear from anyone was, "You can't do this." Being the kid who weighed over 70 kilograms, all I ever got to hear were the taunts of my friends, teachers, or even the moms of my friends, exclaiming that I am incapable of doing anything that their kids can. And why was that? Just because I was obese and looked unattractive. Days flew by, but the hurtful words from them never did, which gradually turned into actions that hurt me even more deeply. It would start off from the annual I Can Sing competition in school, where all of them would go and complain to the teacher to put my item at the bottom of the list without bringing it at the top. Because they would think that if I was the one to start the whole program, it would be a flop. And this would go on till the annual school concert, where the teacher would march by and stare at me, all evil-like, and shout, "You look so odd when compared to the other girls in this row. I strictly insist that you shift backwards." I would shift backwards, speechlessly, because I was afraid to speak for what is right and for what I want. Furthermore, on days where we had physical education, we had games like relays. Now, I knew that I could run, at least as fast as many of my classmates could. So much for wanting to run as the team captain for once. None of them ever gave me the chance. They'd be afraid that the whole team would lose if I were the captain. Thus, I kept on getting rejection after rejection and a 0% of chances. Until one day, I kept on thinking, maybe I am useless after all. Negative thoughts kept raining down my mind. It felt as if my whole world was crashing down. The bitterness in my heart was that heavy. As time flew by, it was the year 2017, and one night during our vacation, I didn't feel to cry myself to sleep. Instead, I thought of what I must do next. And that is when I realized as to how strongly bound I was to these useless shackles. I realized that this wasn't the me I wanted to see in myself. And I knew that I had to smash these shackles into minute pieces. Trust me, drastic experiences in life can change a person and who they are unbelievably. No matter what the situation might be like, the occurrence itself leaves an unforgettable impact on that particular individual. So I decided to make full use of the vacation, to let go of my bad eating habits, and I started working out relentlessly until I strived for success. The vacation ended, and I walked into the school as a whole new individual. Those who used to say, "You can't do this," kept staring at me in shock and disbelief. Honestly, that feeling of satisfaction when you realize that you've finally done it is priceless and endless. Not only that, I became an inspiration to most of my other friends who approached me for weight loss tips. And I even managed to help them to slim down and achieve many more things in life. Fast forward to the present. I am now a lady who is fearless in the pursuit of what sets my soul on fire. Not just pursuit, I make sure that I achieve whatever I am determined to work hard for. Public speaking being the most massive one out of them. You will always learn things the hard way in life. But imagine what could be more elating than seeing yourself as a free, successful bird who flies against all barriers in front of the mirror. As the famous quote says, try, and one day you can fly. Never stop believing that you can do anything if you're determined to do it. And always break against barriers and move forward. But most of all, don't stop until you're proud. Over to the moderator.
Right. Thank you, Nimna, for your inspiring life story of how you transformed yourself from this kid who has been bullied by your friends and was not given a chance to the lady whom you are now. Before I let you go, let me ask you a few questions. Uh, Now, as you said, you had to go through a lot of hardships. Now, can you share with us how you felt when others ridiculed you? And what were your reactions to those bullies?
Thank you for the question, moderator. Well, one thing I could say is at times when you can't do something that the others can, you feel as if there's this huge void in your heart. Well, I could do anything that they could. It was just that they didn't let me to. And that void kept on increasing even more. So I felt this oddness when I was standing amongst all of them because I felt as if I was not normal and they were all normal because they made me realize that I am like that, although I wasn't. And this whole fact that kept on troubling me went on forever and forever until I stressed over enough, got a huge fever that was really bad, and I had to skip school for a whole week. Well, skipping school is a huge thing of surprise for me because I hated getting that absent mark on the register for one day even. And all of you can imagine the bad impact that I had on me because all of them, my peers, my dear peers, were treating me so badly. So yes, I felt really odd and abnormal. I hope that answered your question, moderator.
Yes. So the point that I wanted to raise was in the audience, there might be kids who are facing a similar situation. So if they are feeling bad, if they are feeling down, so it is not nothing new because all of you who are facing that situation will have the same feeling. Then, now you spoke about this amazing transformation during this vacation. So can you share with us what was the turning point for your transformation or the change?
Good question, moderator. Well, a few months before the vacation, we had this little prize giving arranged by our school. And I was also a nominee of it. So I was on seventh heaven the whole day. I was so happy and excited for it. So much for the happiness. During a few hours before the whole prize giving started, we were told to pull all the bags and the tables and chairs out of the classroom because we had to empty it. And while I was doing this, the three triplets, I used to call them the three triplets because they used to always cause trouble for me. And they were the ones who started causing trouble. They would do anything that makes me sad and them happy. So as usual, they got to me, and while I was arranging the bags, they pushed me on top of the bags and the chairs as well. So I hurled over, I was face flat, and I also suffered a very bad internal injury in my right arm. On that day, I really didn't feel sad, but I had this arousal of agitation and motivation that why should I always tolerate them? I should just give them a befitting reply. So what I did was I pledged to myself on that day that I will not let anyone else push me ever again like this. So I thought that I will definitely bring a change in me by the end of the vacation. So this whole fact that I didn't want anyone to push me any further was the turning point to whole of this transformation.
Right. Good. So I think even during these few minutes, you have been able to inspire many of us. And as you said, when you went back to school, you were definitely an inspiration to others. Now let me ask you the other side of it. For you to be able to inspire others and do this, go through this wonderful change, what was your inspiration for that change?
Interesting question, moderator. Well, there are so many people who inspire us on daily basis. But one person I followed throughout these years of my life has always been Bethany Hamilton, who is known as the shark survivor. who actually proved that you are unstoppable if you have your determination. So what happened to her was, she dreamt to be the nation's best surfer, but during one surfing meet, she had a tiger shark attacking her. The shark took off her left arm and she was bedridden with no hope, no nothing, and with all of her passion to become the nation's best surfer destroyed. But then, during an interview later on, she had stated that during her bed rest period, one thing that has always come to her mind was a question. If the physical barrier actually attacked me, why should I stop? Because life doesn't stop for anybody or for anything. So she has mustered all the courage to get back on her feet with just one arm. She came back to the show a month later and she surfed and surfed to her heart's content until she won numerous trophies and became an inspiration to all of us, being the biggest inspiration to me because I learned that your life doesn't stop for anyone or for any physical barrier. You must just always conquer victory through them.
Thank
So
you.
I hope I answered your question, moderator.
Certainly you did. And I will let you go for the time being till we get to the Q&A session towards the end. Let's move on to another quiz. Zoom Master, can we have the second image? Right. So you have the picture of a cricketer, a fast bowler. Who is this? So I'll give you again 4 options to make it easier. I think you have had a good look at the picture. Yes, so these are the options I'm going to give you. Michael Holding, Malcolm Marshall, Colin Croft, Geoff Archer. So you have 30 seconds to mark your answer. Okay. Surprisingly, Malcolm Marshall is not the answer. Neither is Michael Holding. This is Colin Croft. Yes, he was not as famous as Holding or Marshall, but he was one of the members of that deadly group of fast bowlers the West Indies had in the early in the 70s. In 1982, Colin Croft accepted a place on the rebel tour of apartheid-divided South Africa in violation of an international ban on sports tours of the country. The rebel players were granted honorary white status by the government because at that time, South Africa didn't allow blacks to move freely. So this honorary white status allowed the cricketers to have access to all the all white cricket playing or areas, because even certain areas blacks are not allowed to go. One day, Colin Croft, he was on a train and he was kicked off of a whites only carriage. He has gotten into a whites only carriage without knowing while in Cape Town because his color of the skin. He was literally kicked out. And Croft is a firm believer that politics and sports should not be mixed and he was willing to forgive the perpetrators. He accepted the apology of the government and continued the tour. Now, that tour would have been ended abruptly had Colin Croft and his colleagues gave in to the social pressures. So now let me introduce the second speaker for the day, Kavishka Karunanayak. Kavishka is a student of Vidura College and identifies himself as a writer, marketer, musician, speaker, and a photographer who measures life by the number of books he has read. Being very reluctant to appear in public as a child, this young man went on to become a champion speaker and a leader in Toastmasters. He is a 2-time finalist at the All Island Gavel Best Speaker Contest and a past president of CIPM Gavel Club. Kavishka, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to have you all here. Now, the funny thing is that I would not be here in this manner talking with you if it weren't for some very specific and important things that I've decided and I've learned over the course of my life. Now, when I was growing up, I was never the most outgoing kid with, million friends. I was perfectly happy being on the sidelines with my tight-knit group of friends. And that's just how I was. I was pretty much an introvert back then, and I'd say still am. But I also really, really enjoyed learning new things, as those who attended our previous discussion would know. I really like learning new things, gaining new talents and everything. And that's why when our school announced that there was going to be a play, when we were in the nursery, just before grade 1, the nursery section announced that there was going to be a play. And I stepped up to it. Now, the thing is, I was also kind of lazy back then. I decided that, I don't need to memorize my lines. When I go up there, I remember everything. I was full of confidence, and I went up on stage, and suddenly in front of the parents and the principal and the teacher and the lights, and looking to the side, there was the other actor. He was looking directly at me. In the midst of all of this, I completely forgot my lines. And I tried to bluster my way through all of this, but I just couldn't. And then there was a scene change. My eyes were full of tears, and I basically ran off on stage to my parents in the audience. Luckily, they had an understudy prepared, which is the secondary actor. He took over my role, and basically I spent the rest of the evening crying on my father's shoulders. And even worse was the next week. When I went back to school, my friends, not my close friends, the general kids of the grade, they didn't directly tell me anything bad, but they said things like, well, now you can't do this. You shouldn't have done this. Maybe try something else, something that doesn't involve a stage. I felt like they were trying to help me, but to my 10-year-old ears, to my 6-year-old ears, all those years back, I only heard pity. I felt like they were shoveling pity on me, and I absolutely did not like that. I didn't want to experience that. So I decided, fine, if they say so, then I won't be a part of the stage dramas again. So I lay low for a while until about grade 4 or 5. Now by then, luckily, most of the memories of everyone regarding this event had faded away. And I once again decided to maybe just give the stage another try. Not something too overt like drama. I decided, I volunteered to be an announcer at one of the mid-year concerts. Our school has concerts, and I volunteered to be an announcer. Again, I got this massive sheet of set of papers with all the lines for the announcers. And in my incredible idiocy, I thought that since I have the lines, I don't have to practice. So I went up on stage. On the very first thing that we do, which is welcoming guests, it was my turn to announce the chief guest of the day. And this chief guest was a Tamil lady. I couldn't pronounce her name. I can't even remember what it was now, but I distinctly remember the look on the principal's face when I mispronounced her name. So he immediately shot his gaze at me. I was pretty much paralyzed. I had to power through it with the other announcer basically jumping in where I stuttered. And I made a complete idiot of myself. Once again, I went back to school a couple of weeks later, and my friends were much less forgiving this time. There were direct insults on me, like things like mispronouncing my name, or whenever the teacher asked me something, telling the teacher that I was going to mess up the answers. Little things, but again, for someone in the 4th grade, this was tough for a 9-year-old. This was a lot. I wouldn't say it's bullying because I had basically done that to myself, but at the same time, it was not very good for my mentality. And all of this social pressures, basically people telling me that I shouldn't be an announcer, I shouldn't do talking, all of this, it really boxed me in. What happened was, as the word was used earlier, all these social barriers sprung up around me, and for a good 5 or 6 years, I didn't even look at the stage ever again. That was until grade 10. I was 15, and my father had just joined this thing called a Toastmasters club. And he liked the experience. He wanted me to take part in it. So he took me along to a kids version of Toastmasters, which is the Gavel Club. I was absolutely reluctant for a host of reasons. First off, it was on Saturday evening, and no kid in their right minds would want to give up their Saturday evenings to go and do anything. So there was that, and also the blocks in my mind regarding public speaking, all these social barriers I let them put up around me. All of that basically manifested themselves in me being really mad with my father, having a long face the whole drive there. But when I actually went there, things didn't seem too bad. I didn't want to have too great expectations, but I decided to give it a try. And on the very first day, they made me do this thing called a table topic, which for those of you who aren't initiated to Toastmasters, it's where you go up on stage, no idea what you're going to talk about, and right there on the stage, you get a topic and you have to speak on it like that. So as you might have well guessed, I went up there, I froze. I got the topic, I stuttered out the repetition of the topic, and for the better part of 30-40 seconds, spent my time either looking at the ground or at the ceiling. When the green light came up, my time was done, and I went back on stage with my head in my face in my hands. And I went on the way back, I told my father, no, this is not the thing for me. I did not want to do this. But fortunately for me, even though I had all these blocks around me, and even though I was telling myself that, you know, everyone says I suck at this, I shouldn't do this, I'm fortunate to have very supportive parents and friends. So I told this to my friend group that, you know, my father wants me to do this, and so and so and so. They always kept telling me to just give it a try, give it another try, try it with the right mindset. Same with my parents. They were always there for me. They told me to give it another try, we'll help you along the way. My father, he really coached me about speaking and everything. And overall, this support by my friends and family really helped me to push my way through the barriers. Now, ideally, overcoming social barriers comes from within yourself. I was not at that level quite yet, but I still had a good supportive circle around me, which let me do that. So my first takeaway for all of you here today is, if there's someone in your life who you've noticed is stuck behind all of these barriers, lend a hand. A kind word helps. A small gesture helps. A question, how are you doing? How's that thing coming along? That really helps. So that's the very first thing I want to talk about when overcoming social barriers. The power, because after all, society is what creates those barriers, and you need your own small society to overcome them. So amidst all of these challenges, I started realizing that maybe all these people around me, my closest people, maybe they have a point. Maybe I can do this. Maybe all those harsh words from 5-year-olds and 9-10-year-olds, maybe that doesn't mean anything. And I finally accepted myself that these social barriers are something I can overcome. And the moment I made that mental shift, the moment I decided to overcome those social barriers myself, things started going great. For example, as my introduction mentioned, I started Gavel Club. I worked hard, and I eventually got to the place where I was the president of the CIPM Gavel Club. As you can see here, this is me at the acceptance of my presidency. And I basically worked really hard for this on the leadership side and the communication side. At the same time, I spoke in prepared speech contests and table topics contests, the dreaded table topics, which made a fool out of me on the first day. I eventually ended up going up to the all island level or up to the national level in table topics. So it just goes to show, once you decide that those barriers are nothing but, you know, just smoke and mirrors, once you really break through all those social barriers, you will have no idea where you're going to end up. Wherever you're aiming, you will go further. So I did all of that, but at the same time, I am doing something way more important. All those the big awards I got, all of that was for myself. But right now, I'm here speaking with you. Public speaking and my desire to overcome social barriers has helped me to share my knowledge, to share my experience. And I hope that you can see something in my story. I hope you can see a bit of yourself in my stories. And yeah, I really wish that you don't let society stand between you and your goals. Stand on the shoulders of the small community around you, and you will rise to incredible heights. Thank you, moderator. Over to you.
Thank you, Karishka, for yet another inspiring story on a different aspect. Have you overcame these social barriers to realize the true potential you had in you to become a good public speaker? Again, before I let you go, a couple of questions. Now, when you failed at public speaking at several attempts, nursery, grade 5 and Travel Club, what exactly made you to keep going?
Right. So this question, I believe, I mean, no offense to you, Mr. Moderator, but the question is what's at fault here. Now, I didn't see it as failing public speaking. That's the important thing. Okay, maybe everyone was getting on my back about how bad I was at it, but not once did I consider it to be failing. I thought everyone else doesn't want me to do it, but still I realized that maybe there's some potential here. So that's the first thing. The very most important thing is you never fail until you admit that you failed. That's the very first thing. I didn't admit that I failed. And the second thing, as I mentioned, was my family, the family and friends, this small, close-knit group of individuals who really supported me along this journey. That really helps when you're feeling down. Just the fact that you can have someone to talk to helps. So once again, I remind all of you, if there's someone like that in your life, a kind word can make all the difference. Second thing. Third thing is, Mr. Moderator, actually your story. So you're my father, and your story about how basically you had a stutter as a kid, and that physical difficulty, that physical barrier initially prevented you from speaking, and eventually, you know, you're here right now, you're leading panel discussions, you're a president, you're a district level speaker, you've gone pretty much viral on LinkedIn and all these blog sites. So all of that story, honestly, Tata has been a massive source of inspiration for me. So those three things are really what kept me going when the whole world seemed to be against me. Not you.
Right. Thank you for those kind words. Then now, from those days when you try to be an actor, now here you are being a panelist in a discussion seen by almost 100 people. Now you have come a long way as a public speaker. Now, what has it really given you, the public speaking?
Right. So thank you, Mr. Moderator. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Public speaking taught me to be a better public speaker, confidence, all of that. Obviously, let's leave that aside. Now, I mentioned this again in my previous panel discussion in this forum. It's that no skill ever stands alone, right? Let's look at what literally happened to me. So public speaking, or rather the pinnacle of my public speaking career, the All Ireland speech contests. Now, to go there, first off, you need all the public speaking skills done. At the same time, I needed to learn how to write a good speech, writing. Now, even right now, I've found out that writing is a very viable career option for me. It's something I'm pursuing with great interest. So writing, that passion for writing came through the public speaking journey. Second thing. Third thing was, when you go up on stage, you need to groom yourself, you need to dress yourself, matching your tie to your shirt, to your shoes, to your belt, all of that. That aspect even I actually really learned through my public speaking journey. That third thing. And the fourth thing, I learned quite a bit about technology, about mics and audio, AV, I really cannot limit the scope of knowledge I gained through public speaking, you know, just like that. What I'd like to say is succinctly, public speaking, what the main thing it gave me was the ability to really open up my mind to learn, to always learn, to gather new skills, because you never know when it's going to come in handy. So that, moderator, is what public speaking really gave me.
Thank you, Kavishka. So I will let you go for the time being, and we'll get back to you in the open Q&A session. And let me remind the viewers again, you have the option to ask questions directly from the speakers. If you have anything to clarify, or maybe to explore a point that they have mentioned, if you want to know something more about it, whatever the case may be, just go to the chat panel over there. First type your name, then type the person from whom you want to ask the question, and then very briefly type the question. So our Zoom master will pick it up and direct it to me during the Q&A session. So getting back, now there'll be enough people to say that you can't do things, to block your path, create doubt in yourself, and spread rumors and bad things about you, and maybe leave you stranded when you need them the most. So those kind of people are all around us. But as Winston Churchill once said, you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Right, now the final quiz of the day. Zoom master, can we have the, right. Look at this photograph. There's another famous athlete here. So have a good look at it. And once again, I'll give you 4 options to identify who this is. Whether this is Duncan White, Roger Bannister, Carl Lewis, or Sebastian Coe. Okay. Unfortunately, it is not Duncan White, but yes, it is Roger Bannister, or to be precise, Sir Roger Bannister. I know the 3 quizzes were not that easy because I took photographs from the previous generation, maybe the one before even, but anyhow, some of you were able to identify. Now, Roger Bannister is a British athlete who competed in the 1 mile event in the 1950s. The record for the event stood at 4 minutes and 1 second for almost a decade. Experts had said for years that the human body was simply not capable of a sub 4 minute mile, and it was not dangerous, but it was impossible. However, on May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute barrier, running the distance in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. It was an achievement not only for him, but for the whole world. Why do I say that? Within 6 weeks, another athlete, this time from Australia, ran a sub 4 minute mile. And by the end of 1957, no less than 16 athletes had achieved the feat. Now just think, what happened during the course of these 2.5 years? Did humans suddenly get stronger? Did they discover a revolutionary new training method? Or did they find a miracle drug to give them that boost? No. What Roger's achievement did was to lift the barrier so others could believe in their abilities and strive for the impossible. The mental barrier, which was over the heads of all these athletes, was removed by Sir Roger Bannister, and all the athletes were free to go and do whatever they wanted and achieve the impossible. Talking of achieving impossible, as a third speaker, we have someone who has done the impossible herself. She is Getmi Adhikari. Having been nourished and nurtured at Musaeus College, Getmi aspires to work in the international community and become a diplomat. She is passionate about sports and has set herself lofty goals to achieve. But an obstacle was on her way in the form of the thought that this is too much of work, which kept her back. Finally, overcome her obstacles, this young lady went on to become a third-year colours winner at school and a member of the national junior pool in a sport called Wushu. Getmi, over to you.
Thank you, moderator, for the lovely introduction. So let me ask you all a question. Have you all ever thought of giving up at a particular moment and not seeing it through to the finish? All those activities and projects that you have never even thought of finishing? Well, I've had plenty, and I can say that I've been there and done that. One of the most crucial places where I have given up the most is during my sports career. But on the other hand, it is also one of the places where I have achieved the most. This sounds quite contrasting, right? But let us go through my story first. So even as a child, I was quite active and energetic and did not want to stay at one place for a long period of time. Due to this very reason, when I was enrolled in school, I fell in love with sports instantly. I tried many sports, from badminton to table tennis to hockey and even to cricket. But all of these sports continued up to a period of 6 months only. And badminton, being the first sport I did, continued up to 3.5 months. The very reason for this was I never wanted to commit myself to do go for practices 2 to 3 days per week, to go home late and then doing homework till late night. This was more than the amount of trouble that I wanted to go through. The only sport I did was swimming, because that required only a once a week practice. So amidst this abandoning of sports, I had this one goal set in my mind, and that was to become an accomplished sportswoman in my school and to have senior school colors pinned on my blazer. I knew I had the talent, but I just couldn't get myself to do one sport for a long period of time and get it right. Or maybe I still haven't found the correct sport for me to do it. After a while, when I was in grade 7, I chose to play Wushu just for the sake of doing a sport in school, and also doing a martial art was considered to be cool for a girl, especially for a girl. Then I'm pretty sure after one entire year passed by, the coach didn't even know that a girl named Getmi even existed in the team. Because I was this girl who would drop in for practices here and there. And when I was present, I never gave my 100%. After some time, probably, and I think mostly at the mercy of my coach, I was given the chance to go for a tournament. But by the end of the day, sadly, I was only left with participation while others were walking home with certificates and medals. I even noticed that the juniors were starting to fare better than I was. How am I going to get what I want if I am to continue like this? Was what I told to myself. So I started to train harder, try a bit harder, and was slowly improving. And along with my improvement, my confidence also grew. It was not an easy task, and it definitely took some years. After some time, I was ready for a tournament, and luckily I was given the chance. So I went to this tournament after about 3 years, and then by the end of the day, I was left with both participation and achievements and a school color too. Moving on, this was continuing, and 2018 came, and it was one of the years that hit me with the hardest times. I was appointed as one of the school's house games captains, and much was expected from me. In the very same year, just 2 days before a tournament, my back muscle got injured. But now I cannot step back. I went to the tournament, but unfortunately, all 4 of my events were crammed up into one single day. even though the tournament lasted up to 3 whole days. Did I have any choices? Yes, I had plenty of them. I could have either not do any of the events and give the excuse that I have injured back muscle. Or I could have done 1 or 2 of the events, or I could have done all the 4 of the events. I chose the third option. I did 3 of my events, but after every single event, I was on the floor, lying down, screaming with pain. And as expected, I did not score in any. Then the next event was a group event, and I was about to be replaced by a reserve player, but was given the chance after constant assuring and begging. And everybody saw that I was doing the event with an injury and so much of exhaustion, and they were surprised and inspired. We did the event and we became the champions. So after about couple of months, I heard this story being narrated to my peers and as in teammates by my coach and my the senior teammates, and it sounded quite funny. But then I figured out that I was not the only one who was inspired to break boundaries and not to give up, but others were getting inspired to do the same. So now looking back at my sports career, in every situation, I had plenty of choices, but one choice was always constant, and that was giving up. So it depended on myself whether I choose to give up or to go for other alternatives. Gradually and luckily, I chose the other alternatives. So while some of my colleagues were struggling for talent, stamina, and strength, I never had the need to do so. I just had to put my mind to it and do it. And after all, I end up with the achievements I wanted. And also, above all, I got 3 senior school colors by the end of my school career. Over to you, moderator.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We can have that image, Zoom master, of Getni with all the colors on her blazer, which she wanted. Yes. So there she is. Right. So before we move on to the general Q&A session, and I think I see some questions coming up in the chat panel. Let me ask maybe 1 or 2 questions from you before we go. Now, you said that yes, you had the passion for sports and you had the talent, but the one thing was that you couldn't focus, right? And why do you think? Why is it that you couldn't focus on one thing and keep going? Was there reasons?
Thank you for the question, moderator. So as I mentioned in my in my speech, that I never wanted to commit myself towards doing one thing for a long period of time and taking all that trouble, right? So, and I also thought that since I was quite passionate about doing sport, I mean, I had the passion to do it. And I thought it would be easier for me to do the things and easier for me to get into the team, go for tournaments, get all the medals and certificates. But by the end of the day, passion was only a fraction of the things that I wanted. I need many other things as well. So I'm pretty sure all of you must have heard the quote, no pain, no gain. So I can personally relate to this. I remember after every single practice, my muscles would hurt when I come home. And I'm pretty sure I have torn 3 to 4 tissues in my body also. So I remember me putting sprays and ice on my body to get relieved of the pain. But on the other hand, I gained a lot after going through all of that pain. So I think having the passion and also the strength to overcome everything that you go through during your training period really helped for me to not to give up in future.
So if I were to just rephrase the things that you shared, it's like the reasons that you found it difficult to focus was mainly because of the physical difficulties or the challenges you face, because the sport you chose was not something where you can come home and relax. There's sort of pain involved, right? So, right, then moving on to the next question I have for you. You just now said no pain, no gain. So you underwent a lot of pain to have some gain. So what did you gain from being focused and doing this sport of wushu for a long period of time?
So after continuing this sport, I figured that nothing comes to me easily. that I had to work for it hard, and I can't always depend on my luck for things, because luck doesn't only mean coincidence, it also needs preparation to make it a success. And I also remember how I started to do different things after I started Wushu. I started doing every possible extracurricular in school, and my parents and my relatives were really worried whether I'd be able to do my A levels well. So, but I proved them wrong, because I had the ability to balance things out and to prioritize things. Yeah, prioritize things and to focus on what I needed the most. Over to you, moderator.
Right, thank you. So before we move on to the questions, I think we have about 3 or 4 questions up there. And definitely we think we need more questions because we are right on schedule. We were planning to finish the first segment within an hour. So we are right on time, and the next 30 minutes or maybe 20 minutes we can spend on Q&A. So before we move on, to refresh your minds, to ask yourself questions which you can post to us. Let me summarize what we listened to during the last 60 minutes. First, it was the story of Nimna. The story of transforming her body from this chubby little child into this attractive, beautiful young lady. Being ridiculed and made fun of and not being allowed to do certain things pushed her to her limits, because as one day she decided, no, I had enough of it, I'm going to change myself. So she took the advantage of her school vacation, transformed herself, and went back. Not only surprised her bullies, but achieved so much in her image that those same people would come to her for inspiration. So that is what we learned from Nimna. So thank you very much, Nimna, once again for sharing your story. And I know that it is not easy for someone to share something like that in a public forum, and we thank you for that. Thank you. Right? Okay. Then was Kavishka. This is the second time he's appearing in one of my panel discussions. The first one, where he spoke about all these many skills, many small skills, one big life. And here, this time, he spoke about overcoming social barriers. Now, all of us have social barriers. All of us have seen, all of us have in our lives those people who might directly or indirectly indicate to us that we can't do a thing. When we start something, it won't succeed. Who do you think you are? So those are the things that are very common in our day-to-day life. So Kavishka, through his life experiences, from the nursery to grade 5 to grade 10 and up to now, he beautifully explained to us the strength of having, the beauty of having inner strength, that is not allowing anyone else to take away your happiness and your success. That is to ride on the shoulders of your closest network, because in all of our lives there will be a few, maybe a handful, who would want nothing but the best for us. It might be a handful, but all of us have that group. So ride on the shoulders of those people and make sure that you go forward. And he gave a very good advice to all of you. If you have a person in your life who is struggling, either it could be studies, it could be sports, it could be anything else, go to them and lend your hand. So that little gesture can tip the balance, and that person can start a whole new life and become a whole new person. So that is the summary of what Kavishka had to say. So Kavishka, thank you very much for taking part in this panel discussion. Thank you. Moving on to Getmi. I got to know Getmi very recently through one of our Speechcraft programs, where we teach public speaking skills for the community. And the very first day or second day, I knew that she's someone who has a lot of talent in speaking. And now here you are being a panelist in my discussion. So what the gist of Get Me's story is that we have mental barriers. We always go for excuses, find reasons for not doing something without finding reasons to do something. That is a normal way. That's the easy way out. Not to put yourself through the pain, but Get Me explain. So in her speech, what she highlighted was, you might be confident that you have the talent, you have the passion, but unless you are prepared, unless you are ready for it, unless you are willing to put that extra effort, you will not be able to have any amount of success in your life. Because I read somewhere where success comes before work is only in the dictionary. Everywhere else, success comes after work. So keep that in mind. Whatever you want to do, don't let your mind get in the way. Push it aside, because mind is supreme, mind over matter. So focus on that and go forward. Right, so now we will move on to the questions. So I think we have some questions here. Right, so we will start off with a question to Nimna. This is from Toastmaster Lalit. Challenges never cease to come. Any latest challenges in your higher education? How do you tackle them now? Nimna.
First of all, thank you for bringing up the question to us, Master Lalit. So let me start off with this way. I'll start from my A-levels and come back to the present when answering this question. So as it was mentioned before also, I did biology, I mean science, for my A-levels. And throughout the whole A-level series, one thing that I learned was that chemistry and physics were just not my element, but biology was. And then there was an option saying you can do private, you can just do biology without doing chemistry and physics. Now, here I got the whole dilemma. But then one night I kept on thinking, should I go for chemistry and physics, which I know that I won't get through anyway because I don't like it personally, or should I just go for biology with the private option and work things out with just one subject? And that is when it clicked me as to how passionate I am about just biology. So what I think is you must always do what your heart tells you to do. You must always be passionate about anything that you do. I was not passionate about chemistry and physics, so I just let it go, not knowing the consequences that came further, because it was a huge chaotic situation at the end because I didn't do both of them. But coming back to the present, I did biology. And at some point, I realized that, well, it was good that I didn't do chemistry and physics because I anyways chose business communication. I love communication. And the lesson that I actually learned from this whole series of things in my life was to always do what you're passionate about. Challenges will keep coming and going. But in my uni life right now, I am doing what I am passionate about. I was never passionate about accounting or econ because I always did biology. But now, after trying to get to know what these subjects are, I have started to feel that, yes, it is actually my element. And thank God I didn't do chemistry and physics, or else I would be nowhere, like I wouldn't be here in this university. So the answer to your question is that whatever you do, you must always do it with passion. If there is no passion, then you must not do it. So that is how I tackle these days of my busy schedules with assignments and everything. I've started falling in love with them because now I'm used to them. So passion is the whole key. I hope I answered your question
Yes.
to us, Master Lalit.
And I know that you faced a huge challenge when you start uni because I think after half a day of university, the university was closed. Something like that. So yeah, and that itself was a challenge. Now you are getting into a different mode of education, this online, all these things. That itself is a challenge. As you said, if you have the passion, you will find solutions, because if you want to do something, you will find a way to do. Thank you. Then there's a question for Kavishka from Janup, I think from Nalanda YLP. Sir, now that you are you have made a decision that to join Toastmasters after Gavel, and how it has helped you, the Toastmasters.
Right. So the first of all, the difference between Gavel and Toastmasters is massive. Gavel is, you know, mostly kids and maybe university, but with Toastmasters, it's global and it's a massive scope. We have all these international conferences. We have the monthly newsletter. So it's a massive operation that I must make clear. First of all, you pretty much can't compare Gavel to Toastmasters, because Toastmasters is just a massive, completely different ball game. It's a completely different game. And my decision to join it was, I'd say I'm really happy with it, because through Toastmasters, once again, like I've said, all this writing and public relations, marketing, all this digital marketing, all of that I learned, all of that I learned as a result of me joining Toastmasters. I got to practice a lot of skills through Toastmasters. So obviously I am very, very happy about that decision. And I'd say it's one of the key things that's always pushing me to learn new things. So even when we have things like this, you know, I'm learning how to edit videos and learning things about how to run Zoom. All of that happens. I get to practice all of that because of Toastmasters. 100%, I'd say it's one of the things that drive me to be a better person. So Janupa, that is how helpful it was to me. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, so I think as a club, our Toastmasters club, Wordblasters, we are running a lot of online sessions, and we have this thing called Speechcraft. And from this week onwards, we have decided, maybe till the situation eases out, to open this online forums for anyone who is interested. So I will share the details with the participants here. So if you are interested in joining these sessions, you can write to me. Right. So there's a question for Yetni. Unfortunately, there's the person, the name is not here, but what he or she says is, I want to go to the basketball national team, but I also do other sports. I have 4 days of practices per week. Any advice?
So I remember from my personal experience, I remember I had 3 days of Wushu, and I even participated in other inter-house sports as well, because I was the games captain of my house, and it was necessary that I took part in all of them. So what I did was, I started to prioritize things. So when it was my in Wushu, we have a season. I'm pretty sure in basketball, even you all have a season where you have to focus on basketball. So what I'm telling you here is that when it is your season, you focus on basketball the most, because it is what you want to do the most. And as you said, you want to go to the national team. And I'm pretty sure you develop certain strengths while doing basketball. So you can try other sports which have the same kind of strengths. So to do it, and just know that you have to prioritize one sport, and but it doesn't mean that you have to go away from the other sports. Just do it, but prioritize the thing that you want to do the most, then you will find the time for others as well.
Right. I have another question for Kavishka here from Nelia, I think your classmate. Right. Since you talked about social barriers, do you think we should listen to what others say about you? Do you think that we should at least consider their viewpoints?
Yes. So I'd like to make this very clear. I'm not telling you to be a brick wall where nothing comes at you. You're absolutely impervious to everything. No. Usually when someone says something to you, hear them out. Acknowledge that you heard something. And then I'd say, consider where that person lies on your hierarchy of importance. Now, imagine sort of like, I mean, this is not theory, this is something how I think, this is something I live by. Imagine a pyramid, right? At the bottom of the pyramid is just the general public, people, just people. And then a step above that, there's your closest friends and your family. And then above that, you have yourself. I always try to follow that hierarchy of importance of relevance, I'd say. So when someone just says something, when a random person says something to me, okay, if what they're saying really aligns with what I believe in, what I'm trying to do, okay, then maybe I should listen to them. If they don't, if they're just trying to, drag me down, telling me I can't do things, then absolutely not. I will not even I will not even think of what they're saying. That's the basic level. And then there are your friends and your family members. These people usually care for you. They want you to become a better person. So maybe, just maybe, if they say something, I will pay some attention. I'll heed what they're saying up to an extent. And then of course, at the top of all this is yourself. I mean, I'd say pretty often, yourself is the truest friend you have. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's not that you're not listening to what others are saying. Yes, listen and consider. But again, remember that sort of pyramid hierarchy thing. That's how important those persons' words should mean to you. So Nelia, I hope I answered your question. And now moderator, over to you.
Yeah, I think you did. And Zoom Master, I think if you also can just open up a video and take the screenshot now itself, so that without having all the bricks, because all are black. So as it is now, you can take the screenshot with the panel members on the top and one being highlighted. Okay, right. Before I let go, there's the one last question for Kavishka, coming from Vatsala. As a person who challenged and changed your own habits, do you think that the personality traits can be changed?
Absolutely. I definitely think that to yourself, you can be really toxic to yourself and those around you if you don't at least make an attempt to change your ways. Because so often, I mean, without getting too deep into this, we always see people who are really set in their ways. And I believe you're lying to yourself if you say that you can't change your own habits, you can't change your own ways. Simple as that. So to answer your yes/no question, yes, I think it can be changed. And as for how to do that, I guess it's just a matter of thinking how much you want to change this. And once you get that mindset aligned, absolutely, your habits, your traits, anything can be changed depending on how much you want it. Our team moderator.
Right. I think your job for the day is done, so I can let you go for the time being. So let me take a few more questions for the other two panelists. So this is from again Toastmaster Lalit. To get me, can you elucidate the difficulty that you spoke about in training? How is it like to tear a muscle? What are the inner dialogues you have in yourself when you face those injuries? So basically what he's asking is like to explain this, the difficult trainings, maybe drills you have, and how you overcome those painful situations.
Thank you, Toastmaster Alice, for the question. I've had, as I mentioned, I've had a lot of injuries, and I have got scolded by my parents for doing wushu even, because they had to take me to physiotherapists every week. And our training was pretty much hard, because we had to go through stretchings for 1 hour and then 3 hours of training again, and hardly we got any time to cool down even. So I'm pretty sure you all know that going home without cooling down is not good at all. And so I remember in 2016, I was just 16 years old, and we had this tournament in Ambepussa, and I did my event, and in the first, my event lasted for 2 minutes, and in the first 30 seconds, I tore my tissue near my knee, and I had 1.5 minutes to continue, but if I stopped there I would get disqualified. I did not want to do that, but I did the event. It was not quality at all. I just did it. I just did it, and everybody was confused what I was doing. And after the event, I collapsed on the floor, and everybody wanted me to go home. Since there was no point in me staying, actually, because I can't continue, I went home. But in 2018, when I got the injury in my back muscle, everybody wanted me to go home after 3 of my events that I did, and didn't score. As I said, I didn't score in any. But it was that if I was replaced by a reserve player, the whole tournament, the whole group event would collapse, as the reserve player didn't have that much of experience as me. So that's what motivated me to go on, even though I had the injury. And so after every single injury, what I did was I went for the doctor as much as I can possible, and got rid of the injury, and reduce my pain so that I can do more. So that's how I motivated myself to overcome all these injuries and do it. Yeah.
I think an important point you're raising here is that I don't think many of the girls would think martial arts as extracurricular activity. Yes, it involves a lot of pain and practices and all these things. But I believe that going forward, you girls who are in the audience should not differentiate yourself from anybody else. Everything that is out there is for you as well. So if you feel, okay, this is for me, go ahead and do it. And you can, as Get Me has done, enjoy the success stories. So that will be the last question for you, Get Me. I'll let you go for the time being. Thank you very much. One last question for maybe 2 questions for Nimna. This is from Zainab from our youth YLP batch, I think. Do you think sacrifice is worth to achieve results?
First of all, thank you, Sena, for that question. Okay, one thing I must say is, let's take this exam procedure as an example. If you don't let go of your 3 to 4 hours of gaming or watching television to study for your exams, would you get higher grades or would you pass with flying colors? No, right? So yes, sacrifice is not actually the word for this. The word is working hard or striving for success. So you can never get anything in life if you're not determined to get it. It's not like a golden egg will fall from the sky. You have to work hard for it. So in my story, my whole transformation story, one thing I sacrificed was food. The very bad eating habits that I had were like never ending. One thing is, I could never get rid of these things like burgers, pizzas, bread. They used to mean my life to me. But after thinking for a while, I thought that that is not actually what life is. Life is having a healthy, balanced diet, a very good physique where you don't have ailments and random diseases that hit you. And yes, so I started working for that, for a much healthier lifestyle. So I believe that sacrificing is not the word for this, but it's always determination. Determination always leads to success. So it is never too bad to be determined to make a change in you if it is for your betterment. I hope it answered your question.
Right. Yes, I think you did. Okay, let me see whether we have any more questions which we haven't addressed to be taken up. Okay, so basically the rest of the questions have been answered at some point, so I will not go to questions again. So with that, I would like to close this panel discussion, the second panel discussion of Leaders of Tomorrow Online. Let me thank all the panelists for spending a lot of time. From about a week ago, we were having rehearsals, we were doing scripts. So thank you all of you. Thank you Nimna, Kavishka and Getmi, and a big thank you for our Zoom master, Asel, for organizing everything and helping us to run this session very smoothly. And above all, thank you for all the participants. So it was encouraging to see that there's almost 70 participants even now at the end of the Q&A session, because I'm a person who goes to all these online sessions very, very regularly, and I know how the participation drops towards the end of the session. And thank you for all the participants to taking the time to be with us right till the end. And I invite you to visit our Facebook page, the Leaders of Tomorrow, the link of which I will share in to you through WhatsApp. Like it so that you can get the regular updates that we are having. And I myself, every other day, I put up an article on various topics, some of which might be useful to you. So join our Facebook page and like it. And we are planning our next discussion, hopefully next Friday, May 15th. And the topic for the discussion will be how to keep yourself occupied during the lockdown. So I plan to bring in experts from the academic establishment, from arts, from sports, various things, and give you some practical tips to spend the rest of your vacation, rest of your lockdown period productively, so that we can come out of this with our head held high and as without going crazy. Right, so that's about it. And I thank all of you, and during the next couple of hours, you will get another WhatsApp message and an email as well with the feedback form, where we ask you to give feedback about the session for the improvement of our future sessions. Please take maybe 3-4 minutes to respond to that. It will be a Google form where you can answer and submit. And I expect most of you to help us out with some valuable feedback. And after the session, I have a separate WhatsApp group called Leaders of Tomorrow Online. I will add all of you to that group. Now, this is the second discussion, as I said. The participants from the first one and this one, the new participants, I will add to that group. So I'll be able to build up a community of individuals who are seeking knowledge, individuals who are hungry for knowledge and who are willing to join these sessions. Because in future, when we have this community built up to a substantial level, we won't have to do any marketing, any sort of publicity. That group itself will sustain itself and will be able to have this type of sessions going. So that will happen immediately after the session. Those who are coming for this session for the first time will be added to our existing group, so that all of us will be in one platform where we can do wonderful things in the future. Zoom Master, anything to add?
Nothing much from my side.
Right. And the other thing is, the whole thing was recorded, and we will upload the video, and you can go through it. Maybe I saw in between some of you are getting disconnected and coming back. So the entire session will be there for you to see. And within a day or two, I will put together all the scripts of the speakers as an article, and that also will be shared. So you can have some record of what we discussed and keep that as a reference for your future needs. So that's it from us, Leaders of Tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed, and I see a lot of positive comments appearing on the chat panel. Thank you very much. And don't forget to give the feedback, the formal feedback through the Google form. Until we meet once again, goodbye from all of us. And I request the panelists to just remain after the meeting for a small chat. Thank you and goodbye.